قبل از اینکه من اینجا بیایم برای من گزارش داده بودن که در یونان فاشیستا هست بسیاری هستن اونا ما از ترس جان خود اینا رو چون میگه من را دوست ندارن چون من نماینده
انا رحت ايطاليا رحت بلجيكا رحت النمسا اوستريا انسبروخ رحت بلجيكا شارلروات بيز رحت ايطاليا عمري ما شفت المعامله هذه.
He lived in Italy. He lived in Norway.
My name is Nils Muižnieks. I'm of Latvian origin. I was elected from Latvia, but I was born and raised in the United States. My parents were refugees there, and I moved to Latvia right after independence. My academic training is in political science, but I've been doing human rights work for the last 20 years in various capacities, running an NGO in the government, in academia, and I'm the third commissioner for human rights.
So, every time you lose it, I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to open a new one.
So this is the second time.
The focus of our visit here is on racist violence, the role of the police, and what to do about an extreme rights political party. This is a key case for Europe, not only because of the depth of the economic crisis, but also because of Greece's role in migration in Europe in general. In 2010, 90% of all migrants into the European Union entered through Greece.
Et vous venez d'où?
Moi, je viens de Congo.
Du Congo? Et les autres?
Congo, moi aussi Congo.
Et?
Ils cherchent pour nous des travail, on n'a pas de papiers, on n'a pas de travail. On ne vit pas bien, on souffre beaucoup.
Vous pensez que vous êtes, je sais pas, au Mali, au Niger, vous voyez à la télévision les annonces de voitures, de belles femmes, d'appartements, le monde de la consommation massive. Il dit, bon, et qu'est-ce que je fais ici dans la misère absolue? Alors je vais risquer ma vie pour ma famille, je vais au moins essayer d'arriver là-bas. C'est quelque chose de tout à fait naturel quand vous ne trouvez pas dans votre pays les moyens de vivre dignement. On n'est pas là pour faire seulement un travail d'ONG. On est là pour faire un travail avec le gouvernement pour résoudre les problèmes. Et là, c'est un travail aussi diplomatique. Ferme dans la dénonciation qu'il faut dénoncer, mais en même temps, ouvrant les portes à des solutions factibles. C'est-à-dire, c'est une médiation difficile entre le problème des citoyens, les gouvernements responsables et les possibilités de résoudre les problèmes. La première fois que je visitais ce centre, au mois de décembre 1999, en pleine guerre, son état était tel que j'ai demandé à Moscou la fermeture de ce centre. Mais le message, je crois, le plus important aujourd'hui, c'est savoir que dans un pays, il faut que la justice fonctionne d'une façon indépendante et pour tout le monde, et que les méthodes de faire disparaître les gens sont inacceptables.
That was precisely at the transition moment. He worked for 6 years. The mandate is that long, and my mandate is also 6 years. I think I was extremely fortunate to succeed him, and he seems to be satisfied with my work on the basis of what he started.
I think the first commissioner, Álvaro Gil-Robles, had to establish the office in difficult circumstances when people were skeptical about the need for such an office. Thomas Hammarberg built up the office, strengthened it, established respect and authority for the office, I think in a very widespread manner.
I try to see the most important decision makers in every country in Europe. And I had a fairly long meeting also with Vladimir Putin. These were very concrete discussions. One issue which came up was the issue of the death penalty. Russia has still not totally abolished the death penalty, which is actually one of the requirements for participation in the Council of Europe.
We don't know what to do.
This is another priority for us when we make visits. This is from Belgrade, group of Roma there, and the anti-gypsyism that we have in Europe today, with anger and prejudices directed against these people, is something that is a shame for Europe. This is from South Ossetia, outside the city Shimvali. This area was terribly hurt by the war in August 2008. And you could see here how houses were destroyed by artillery shelling. Here there are also the villages where ethnic Georgians lived and were attacked during this time by Ossetian militia groups, and had to flee while their houses were destroyed.
I think a key part of any human rights work is empathy. Empathy for victims or targets of human rights violations. And if you don't have that empathy, you will become a selfish human rights person, standing up only for your own rights and not for those of others. It's important to let it touch you, because the emotional impact of it can motivate you to want to do more, to help, to change. It can give you anger sometimes about things that should be done that aren't done. Well, I think the Commissioner for Human Rights has to be a good diplomat. But a diplomat that deals not only with with statesmen and officials and governments, but also with civil society and the media, because have to be a convincing interlocutor for all of these different partners, and to be able to speak with authority, both with civil society and with governments. Today, this event of commemoration takes on a special significance, because we are seeing a context in which we see a huge increase in hate crimes and hate speech and discrimination. Particularly worried about the racist and xenophobic attacks, but also the fear that this is spread, a fear that should not exist in a European country today. And I want to stress the importance of an active civil society and cooperation between the government, parliament, local authorities, and civil society. Because it's civil society, I think, that reminds us of the need to be vigilant, of the gaps that need to be filled in legislation, and that pushes us to do more so that we will not repeat the horrors of the past.
Now, there are many human rights problems in Europe, and I think there is no real ground for complacency that we are fine when it comes to human rights. It's only in Africa, Latin America and Middle East there are problems. No, that's not true. We have really major problems in Europe.
Le travail est énorme. Il ne faut pas non pas avoir le délire de grandeur. Penser que le commissaire va être une espèce de d'Artagnan qui va sauver le monde. Non. Le commissaire travaille dans un contexte, travaille avec le gouvernement qui sont au Conseil de l'Europe.
Merci le Président. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure to be here again to discuss with you our work during the last quarter of 2012. I just returned from a very interesting trip to Greece, about which I will... There are many urgent cases in the Council of Europe. I think it's important here to try to inject human rights back into the debate on austerity, back into the debate on tolerance, on migration, and that is where I see my role, is to try to put human rights back on the agenda. That's the key thing, is not to work for ourselves or just to go through the motions, but to really help people. I think that's what this job is all about, and that's what human rights are all about, is to help people live better lives.